He walked away from 2.54 billion views, nearly 12 million subscribers, and a channel that was still uploading every week, not because it failed, not because anyone forced him out, but because of a single conversation with his wife about how fast their kids were growing up. That man is Matt Carriker, the founder of Demolition Ranch, the most viewed firearms channel in the history of YouTube, and a licensed veterinarian who secretly ran a nonprofit that used his ad revenue to pay for animal surgeries. By the end of this, you will understand exactly what happened, and why the real story behind his exit is nothing like the version most people have settled for. Bourne, Texas is a small hill country city about 30 miles northwest of San Antonio. Population under 20,000. Known for its limestone buildings, cypress-lined river, and the kind of pace where most people's career ambitions tend to stay local. Matt Carriker grew up there. His father, Dr. Lee Carriker, was the town veterinarian, and Matt watched him work from the time he was old enough to follow him around. He didn't dream of going viral. He didn't dream of cameras. He watched animals get better and figured that was probably what he was supposed to do with his life too. He enrolled at Texas A&M's College of Veterinary Medicine in the mid-2000s, one of the most competitive vet programs in the country. And while he was there, in April 2007, he started a YouTube channel. Not for fame, not as a strategy. He posted car renovation clips and random videos of his life. The channel was called Off the Ranch, and almost nobody watched it. That should have been the end of the story. But in 2011, with his final year of vet school approaching, Matt picked up a GoPro, grabbed some friends, went outside, and started filming himself shooting guns. The first video went up on January 3, 2011. A Spaz 12 shotgun fired at a computer monitor. The channel was called Demolition Ranch. Nobody expected anything from it. Then one morning he woke up, and there was money in his account. A small amount, pocket change really, but it was there. Real dollars, deposited overnight because people had watched his video. And here's the part that changes everything about what you just heard. That first deposit was small enough that most people would have dismissed it. Matt didn't. He started working harder. More videos, better setups, more creative ideas. What happens when you shoot a gun into another gun? What caliber stops a car door? What does a .50 caliber do to a mattress? He called it redneck science, and it turned out millions of people wanted to watch exactly that. The channel grew. Then it grew faster. Then it started approaching the viewership numbers of channels that Matt had watched and admired. Channels he thought of as untouchable. And the moment Demolition Ranch pulled level with them, something shifted in how he saw himself and what this could be. The problem was that he was still in vet school. His focus split. The videos kept coming, and the subscribers kept climbing, and the exams kept arriving. According to multiple accounts of this period, his academic performance suffered to the point where he nearly failed his final exams. He stepped back from YouTube for a period to focus on finishing his degree, a decision that almost nobody who followed the channel would have known about at the time. He graduated. He got his Doctor of Veterinary Medicine from Texas A&M. He received his veterinary license in 2012. Then he went straight back to making videos. Most people who tell this story treat that detour as a footnote, a brief pause before the bigger narrative. But it tells you something important about Matt Carriker, that when he had to choose between his identity as a creator and the professional foundation he'd spent years building, he chose the foundation first. YouTube could wait. His license couldn't. What happened next is the reason this story spread across the internet. By 2012, Matt had his veterinary degree and a YouTube channel with real momentum. Most people in his position would have picked one or the other. He chose both. He bought the Fair Oaks Ranch Veterinary Clinic in Bourne, not from a stranger, but from his own father. Dr. Lee Carriker was winding down his years of practice, and rather than see the clinic pass to someone outside the family, Matt took it over. He walked into his father's building, inherited his father's patients, and kept working on his father's terms. Around 30 hours a week, treating animals in the same town where he grew up, watching his dad do the same thing. While he ran the clinic, Demolition Ranch was climbing past 1 million subscribers, then 5 million, then 10. In January 2014, he launched a third channel, Vet Ranch. And this is the part most people who know the Demolition Ranch story completely miss. Vet Ranch was not a content play. It was a nonprofit. The concept was straightforward. Take the ad revenue generated by watching the channel and use it directly to fund surgeries for animals who had been brought in from high-kill shelters or found injured on the street. Animals that would otherwise have been euthanized because their owners couldn't afford the procedures. Matt and his team would film the treatment, the surgery, the recovery, the rehoming, and viewers watching those videos were directly financing the outcome. He partnered with San Antonio Pets Alive and other rescue organizations across Texas. The Vet Ranch channel grew to over 2 million subscribers. That's 2 million people whose ad impressions were, in aggregate, paying for dogs and cats to survive procedures they had no other way of getting. It didn't make headlines the way his firearms content did. It never trended, but it kept running, quietly, for years, and it's still running now. And if you think that was surprising, stay with me, because this next part is why the whole story matters. By the mid-2010s, Matt Carriker had built something that had no real precedent. 3 YouTube channels, a veterinary clinic, a nonprofit animal rescue operation, and a growing merchandise business, Bunker Branding, that started as a way to sell Demolition Ranch shirts to the Demolitia, his fan base, and eventually expanded into a full-service screen printing and fulfillment company that produced branded apparel for dozens of other creators. The ranch in Bourne had transformed too. The Guadalupe River Ranch, a 354-acre property along the Texas Hill Country, became both his filming location and a business venture. He developed it into Desperado Resort, a short-term rental property that brought guests onto the same land where the videos were made. It wasn't just a home. It was a brand operating in physical space. By any measure of the word successful, Matt had exceeded it. And then, in March 2020, his brother Mark died. Mark William Carriker had also been a YouTuber. His channel, Homemade Everything, documented his life and projects. He had been fighting a rare form of sinus cancer. Viewers of the Carriker family channels had watched the battle unfold in real time, had followed updates, had hoped. In March 2020, that battle ended. Matt did not make a video about it immediately. He went quiet. For someone whose entire professional identity was built on showing up on camera with energy and enthusiasm, that silence communicated more than a statement ever could. He came back. He kept posting. But people who followed the channel closely noticed a shift, a thoughtfulness that hadn't been quite as present before. When he talked about family in his videos after that, it carried different weight. One phone call, one conversation. That's all it took to change the direction of everything. By 2022, Demolition Ranch was an institution. Over 11 million subscribers, more than 2 billion lifetime views. A channel that had essentially created the template for firearms content on YouTube. What to test, how to frame it, how to make an audience care about ballistics. Then 2024 arrived, and everything that had been stable started moving. In June 2024, YouTube announced significant updates to its firearms content policies. Videos featuring military-grade weapons, the category that covered a substantial portion of Demolition Ranch's most watched content, would now be age-restricted. That meant they would no longer appear in general recommendations, no longer be visible to the algorithm's broadest audience, and would effectively be walled off from the casual viewer who stumbled across them without intent.
Matt posted a video responding to the changes.
He said directly that age-restricting his content affected the channel big time. He wasn't exaggerating. Data tracking his channel's performance shows average monthly views had already dropped by roughly 10 million from their 2022 peak, and the new policy wasn't going to reverse that. Then, in July 2024, a photograph from one of the most covered news events of the year put Matt Carriker's name in front of people who had never heard of his channel, for all the wrong reasons. The attacker at the Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, was photographed wearing a Demolition Ranch t-shirt. The image circulated globally. Within hours, Matt's channel, a channel about testing guns in creative ways, built on a decade of non-political, entertainment-first content, was being discussed in the context of political violence. He responded immediately and publicly. He condemned the attack. He stated clearly that his channel was never meant to incite violence or promote hatred. He pulled merchandise lines. He did everything a creator in that position could reasonably be expected to do. But the damage to the channel's public image, and to Matt's own sense of what the channel had become in the wider conversation, was done. Most people who know this story stop here, but the real story starts right now, January 28, 2025. Matt Carriker posted a video on Off the Ranch, not Demolition Ranch, not a formal announcement, but on the channel where he'd always shown his actual life. He sat on his Texas property in the rain and talked. He said he had surpassed every single goal he'd set for himself on YouTube. Every one. He said he and Meredith, his wife of nearly 2 decades, his high school sweetheart, had looked at their 3 kids, Adeline, Annie, and Lincoln, and had a moment of clarity that hit them hard. Their kids were growing up fast. They weren't going to be in that house much longer. And the way the channel worked, the relentless need to plan every day around what would make the best video, meant he was consistently watching that time pass from behind a camera. He said, "I want to plan my day around what will make the best day, not what will make the best video." He was not being pressured out. He was not leaving because the channel was failing. He was leaving because, at 38 years old, he looked at 2.54 billion views and decided that number wasn't the one that mattered most anymore. The same day, he listed the Desperado Resort, the 354-acre Guadalupe River Ranch, for $15 million. The property that had appeared in hundreds of his videos, that his audience had watched him renovate and develop over years, was going on the market. If it didn't sell, he said, he would continue running it as a business, just without filming it. His final videos went up in March 2025. One on Off the Ranch, quiet and reflective, rain outside, 14 years compressed into a single conversation with a camera. One on Demolition Ranch, tanks, explosions, old friends, the full spectacle one more time. He paused between takes and said, "It's weird, this is the last time." And then he stopped posting. Here's what the comments kept asking. And here's the answer they never got, until now. The channel went dark, but Matt Carriker didn't disappear. Bunker Branding continues operating. The company he built to service his own merchandise needs had grown into something that served other creators as well. Full-service apparel fulfillment, branded clothing, the kind of back-end infrastructure that most YouTube-adjacent businesses never manage to build into something lasting. Annual revenue from that operation is estimated at over $500,000. It runs without him needing to stand in front of a camera. Vet Ranch, the nonprofit channel, continues. The surgeries still happen. The animals that come in from high-kill shelters across Texas still get treated. The ad revenue from over 2 million subscribers is still being applied to procedures that would otherwise be unaffordable. The mission Matt built in 2014 has outlasted the channel that made him famous. He remains a licensed, practicing veterinarian. He still works at the Fair Oaks Ranch Veterinary Clinic in Bourne, the same clinic his father ran before him, in the same town where he grew up, treating the same community he's belonged to his entire life. The DVM he almost sacrificed for YouTube is still being used. And Demolition Ranch, the channel with 11.8 million subscribers and 2.54 billion views, still earns passive ad revenue. Every day, people watch the back catalog. The algorithm still surfaces the videos. The income from that archive continues to flow, with no new content required to generate it. What Matt built was not just a channel, it was a machine that kept running after he stepped away from it. That's rare. Most creators who leave YouTube leave behind a digital ghost, a channel that stalls, ages, and eventually stops mattering. Matt left behind a business, and if you think that was surprising, stay with me because this next part is why the whole story matters. There is a specific version of the Matt Carriker story that gets told most often. It involves the gun videos, the subscriber count, and the Trump rally photograph. It is accurate in its facts and completely wrong in its weight. It treats the most visible moment of his career as the defining one, and leaves out everything that actually made him different. Here is what that version misses. He got his father's veterinary degree, went to his father's school, bought his father's clinic, and kept serving his father's community. He started a nonprofit and used entertainment money to fund animal surgeries, quietly, without ever making it the center of his brand identity. He nearly failed his exams and chose his education over his audience. He watched his brother fight cancer and kept showing up. He built a merchandise company that serves other creators, not just himself. He developed a 154-acre resort from the ground up, and then he walked away from 12 million subscribers because a conversation with his wife made him realize what the scoreboard he'd been watching was missing. The question most people ask about Matt Carriker is, why did he leave? The better question is, what kind of person builds all of that, keeps almost none of it public, and then chooses the one thing, his kids growing up in front of him, that couldn't be monetized? His retirement video was watched by millions of people. The comment sections across all his channels filled immediately with people saying the same thing, that they respected the decision, that they understood it, that they hoped he actually followed through. Because the internet has seen enough "I'm quitting YouTube" videos that turned into hiatus announcements within 6 months. Matt posted his last video in March 2025 and has not uploaded since. He meant it. A man built one of the largest firearms channels in YouTube history, ran a veterinary clinic, funded animal surgeries through a nonprofit, developed a resort, built a merchandise company, and then, at the height of it all, decided the most important thing he could do was be present for his family. What comes next for Matt Carriker is by design, not on camera. The Desperado Resort sale is ongoing. Bunker branding continues. Vet Ranch continues. And somewhere in Bourne, Texas, a licensed veterinarian who almost chose YouTube over his degree is showing up to work in the same clinic his father built. The question worth sitting with is this. Matt Carriker had 12 million subscribers, 2.5 billion views, and a $15 million property, and he said that wasn't what made the best day. Do you think he got that right? Or is there something he left on the table that he's going to regret?